Hey guys, Vinnie Mirchandani here. Pleasure to have Bill and Jerry, two key executives from Plex Software um, in Michigan, but calling from their homes today. Welcome aboard, Bill and Jerry. Introduce yourself if you don't mind, and also spend a minute or two on Plex.
Of course. Vinny, thanks for having us. This is Bill Berutti. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Plex Systems, and very happy to be here today. Plex is a global software as a service solution provider focused on ERP, MES, and Internet of Things solutions for manufacturing companies.
Hey, Vinny. My name is Jerry Foster. I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders here at Plex. Been here obviously for a long time and seen us go through a lot of changes, and just happy to be here and excited to be talking to you today.
So guys, I'm on my business school's advisory board, and I forgot to ask the dean last Friday. So, how come you never prepared us for a crisis like this? You taught us a lot of things, but never for this crisis. Bill and Jerry, how do you manage, where do you look for guidance in such an incredible time?
Yeah, it's certainly something, Vinny, as you said, that none of us have prepared for. But I will say that in our case, we're fortunate because we're a software as a solution provider. We have pretty rigorous disaster recovery plans that we're always prepared for, because it's our obligation to have our solution always up and running for our customers. That includes not only preparing for disasters, that might be related to, for instance, weather events, but also having the requirement that our employees be ready to work from home on a moment's notice. So we were able to pivot pretty quickly. The one other thing I would say is that, crises like this are an opportunity to lead. And, if you prepare your team effectively and you have the right people in place, the business should run itself, which Plex is fortunate to have that kind of quality of leadership in place. But in a crisis like this, it's a chance to step up and really make sure that we protect our employees and take care of our customers and continue to operate. And again, Plex has been fortunate to be able to do so.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, it's kind of maybe on a more intangible level. There's when you're on a team that you trust and respect, and something like this happens, there's a, I don't know if camaraderie is the word, but something like that, just the desire to get through it, and knowing that employees are depending on you, and you have one focus and one mind to get through this, and the ability to work together, I think really makes a big difference, especially when I talk to some people I know in other industries and their teams don't work together well. And times like this, it just exacerbates the dysfunction, and Plex is not like that. It's been really cool to be a part of it.
So, we've seen a lot of acrobatics in the last few weeks, right? A lot of doom and gloom, but a lot of heroics too, right? In healthcare. But in manufacturing, it's been amazing, right? You look at GM and Ford jumping into ventilators. You look at 3M quadrupling their N95 capacity. You're seeing distilleries make hand sanitizers. You're seeing paper companies resort and make more toilet paper. Just the acrobatics overnight, you're used to seeing them over months. They've been happening like overnight. And Jerry, in the supply chain area, the last mile logistics, just over and over again, we've seen a lot of acrobatics. How does your software, I'm sure it's putting a lot of demands on your software, right? Because people are expecting the same miracles from you. How have you coped? And can you share some examples of acrobatics you've seen at your customers?
Yeah, Vinny, I'll take a first shot at it. First of all, the power of a SaaS business model and a SaaS provided solution really has been beneficial. And I think you talked to Dennis from Intiva the other day. They were able to move to work from home quickly. Accuride the same. Many of our customers have articulated the power of that. We've also been fortunate with a SaaS solution to be able to continue implementations. We have a number of global customers that have had to stagger the geographies in which they're operating and extend our solution in different places. And because it's SaaS, it was easier to do so. In fact, we had one top 5 tier 1 automotive supplier that was in the midst of an implementation and realized very quickly that if they were going to move to work from home and continue the implementation, they needed laptops. And you probably know this, Vinny, there's a laptop shortage in the world right now because of this work from home move. We actually were able to give this customer a couple handfuls of our laptops so that they could continue the implementation from home. And, you know, we were proud and pleased to be able to do that. And a couple of other things, we've also seen customers want to continue these initiatives, not only ones they've made decisions for, but new ones. In the month of March, we closed 2 new transactions with brand new customers where we never visited the customer. You know, we completed the transactions with them using technology like this. And we think that's probably a part of the future as well. You know, we're implementing technology where we've never been to the plant, and, you know, all of it's happening virtually. So we think that'll continue. You know, one last point on that, we've also had the pleasure of being able to bring some of our customers together. We've held a number of forums where customers like, you know, Accuride I mentioned previously and Creative Foam have come together and presented to our customers on how they're dealing with the crisis, and, you know, sharing ideas about how they're adapting and how they're even preparing for what's it look like when we bring everybody back and how do we prepare for that. And then just finally, on your point about pivoting, we've been really proud. You know, our customers have used our technology to be able to quickly pivot. And, you know, it's the ability to bring together the human information, the machine information, the manufacturing process data, the financial data, all in one system that allows them to do that quickly. Customers like Creative Foam that move from making auto parts to making ventilator parts for GM in their effort to deliver ventilators. You know, you mentioned, Vinnie, hand sanitizer. Both DrinkWorks and Don Q Rum, one of my favorite rums, both those customers pivoted to producing hand sanitizer almost overnight. And then, you know, a long list of customers, Murex, OK Industries, Dessen, Batesville Tool and Die, Jagaman, all pivoted within a week to begin to make face shields for hospitals, you know, things that they had never produced before, and they were able to pivot so quickly. So it's really inspirational to see manufacturing come to the fore on a lot of this effort to address the crisis.
Jerry, are you seeing any?
Yeah, definitely. And
I was going to say, is that showing up in features that people expect in the next couple of releases?
Well, it's interesting when you look at that. There hasn't been a huge ask in features yet. I suspect when our customers kind of do a rewind and look at what's happened the last couple months, I think they're gonna ask us, you know, would have been helpful to have this or to have that. So I expect that to be coming. I think there's a couple things. One, our customers right now are really focused on, you know, how do we plan for bringing workers back into the plant? What things do we need to have in place? And so they'd ask for guidance on that. And we've been actually pushing them back to the community that we host for our customers. And it's been really cool watching them get together with each other and figure out how to make this happen. We had one customer actually create a VisionPlex screen, which is one of our screen designers, that they can build their own screens. And he built a screen that is focused on helping and interviewing their workers as they come into the plant to make sure they're healthy and safe. Now he's sharing that with other customers that they can use that as well. So actually seeing that level of interaction and cooperation amongst our customers is really cool. And then we have seen a couple things. We've seen some increase in some usage about some features that we had in place already, like our supply chain planning software, Demandcaster. We had a feature in there where you could delete a time frame, and we're seeing that used a lot more right now because people don't want to use that skewing their future planning. So yes, we're seeing some things now, but I suspect, as I said, more things coming.
Jerry, you've also had a really pioneering, you know, you've looked at your 20 years of cloud data and atomized, and that's some interesting things about supply chains, right, around the world, production in China, production in other areas. Share with the viewers what you've done there.
So, you know, as being a cloud provider, as you mentioned, we have almost 20 years of hardcore manufacturing data. And we've been talking recently on how we can use that to our customers' benefit, to our benefit. And we have a small team that started working on some of those concepts. In the middle of March, Bill called me and said, hey, I know you're working on some of this data analysis. Can we pivot and actually focus on reporting what's happening to manufacturing as a result of COVID-19 and what things are happening there? And I was like, it's a great idea. So basically about 4 days, we went from idea to actually releasing our COVID-19 resource center on plex.com. which is highlighting a number of things that are happening in manufacturing. And I'm going to show those to you right now. If you don't mind, I've got a couple screens that we can look at. And let me know when you can see this.
Yeah, I could see it. Yep.
All right. Can you see the graph there?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is I'm going to walk you through a couple things, and feel free to jump in with questions. But this shows the orange shows our production metric last year in 2019. And then the blue shows the production this year. And the gap, of course, between the two is just the difference in our growth of this year over last. But you can see starting there at the end of March that worldwide manufacturing just plummets. And this particular graph is as of 2 weeks ago. And I just wanted to highlight the drop. There was an 80% drop in manufacturing across all of the Plex customer base that you see here, which is unprecedented. That's just a huge drop. But if you go ahead to the most recent, and this is as of this morning, 2 weeks later, you can see we've bottomed out and hit the bottom. And what you're seeing here is mostly just essential manufacturing or manufacturing that is still in industries that are doing well, such as food and beverage. And what's also interesting is when you take that and then you compare, this is worldwide manufacturing, when you compare that to what's going on or what's happened in China, and this graph shows the production that's happening in just our China facilities. And you can see starting back in January, February, the huge decrease. And of course, the orange, the decrease there is because of the Chinese New Year. But the blue with what's happened this year in China is the huge decrease. And then they started to rebound there in the middle of February as production started to come back online. And then you see a decrease again in March, which would be analogous to when the rest of the world started to get hit with the virus and their production started to go down as they encountered the virus on their home front. And so that then reflected back on Chinese manufacturing, and there was a decrease over a couple weeks there in March and April, and now it's bottomed out and actually started to increase. So you can see this trend as the virus moves around the world and how it's hitting the various countries and the result. And then just to maybe key off a couple things here, looking specifically at automotive, very similar graph to the worldwide manufacturing that we showed a second ago, but you can see the huge drop. And now even a slight increase worldwide, just very slight increase in automotive as we've hit the bottom and now starting to eke our way upwards. And I'll just compare that with our food and beverage here. Food and beverage also saw a decrease, but it's also started to stabilize. Now the difference here is, I mentioned earlier that worldwide manufacturing has dropped by 80%. Our food and beverage data set is a little bit smaller. So the drop here, although it looks the same, is actually much smaller. It's only about a 30% drop in our food and beverage customers. Because as you know, food and beverage, especially when it comes to supplying grocery stores and such, is still, they're going like gangbusters. So we have a lot of food and beverage customers that are actually doing more production than they were before this hit. So I've got more graphs, but I thought I'd stop there because I could talk about this
So Jerry,
all day long.
Jerry, I'm sure you've shown this to your key customers. Are they excited about this? What use case did they see for this?
I think a couple things. One, two things. One, watching what's happened in China, I think helps them see a little bit what the future, so they can see, okay, we see what's happened in China, and they're kind of leading indicator in the beginning of the supply chain there, so we can actually get a sense of what's going to happen. And then it helps them to plan, and maybe even psychologically gives them a little bit of, okay, we can do this, we can get through this, we can make it. Because that 80% drop, it's huge, it's unprecedented. So actually seeing the recovery in some of the countries like China and even Germany starting to increase at a good clip now, I think bodes well for the rest of the industry and encourages everyone to stay the course and see this through, because we will make it. We will get through this.
Actually, that's a good segue to my question to Bill. Bill, there's clearly sentiment. You heard Dennis at Antiva say this also, to bringing stuff back to the United States, right? Make more in the US. Is that mostly because it's politics at this point? Or are you starting to hear that from other customers as well, that we've become a little too dependent on foreign manufacturing? And if that is the case, Is that going to be good for Plex as people start bringing business back home?
Yeah, I think it's certainly there's a moment in time, political or emotional response, Vinny, but it's interesting. We track this sentiment, and there's a number of different people that look at the sentiment around the propensity to reshore manufacturing. And one of the consultants that follows it is Kearney. And they saw even before this crisis in 2019, a reversal of sentiment to bring manufacturing home, and a very significant change in sentiment last year. So this really, there was a change related maybe to tax policy and some politics and others, but that sentiment existed. I think this has further spotlighted it. I think we know coming out of Washington, there's a point of view that there may be tax incentives to motivate that. There's also certainly in certain sectors, whether it's medical device or pharmaceutical or other things that are really deemed essential or almost in the security interest of the company or the country, that those things need to come home. By the way, I would tell you that it's not just the US. We're hearing this from our European customers as well, that we're really concerned about the fact that the PPE, they couldn't get it, and they still can't in some cases, or the prices are much higher. And then the final point I would make is that independent of any kind of reshoring politics or nationalism, I think one of the things this has highlighted is the single-threaded nature of a lot of supply chains, where there's just too much of a dependency on one place in the world, whether it's China or somewhere else. And so what we're hearing from a lot of our customers is that they need to move to a posture where they have more than one thread in the supply chain. And I think that will bring some things back to the US and to Europe, in addition to the kind of the national security concerns. And then what does it mean to Plex? We do believe that this is going to be very good for Plex, because the nature of our smart manufacturing technology not only allows you to be more agile and nimble, but it also allows you to operate much more effectively and efficiently, taking advantage of technology and the combination of human and machine data. And so we think that that'll increase the demand for that as people look at how to not only bring things home, but to how to have more flexibility across their supply chain and their manufacturing operations.
What Dennis was obviously very complimentary of the ease in which he could transition from 90% in the office or in the field to work at home, right? Have you heard that from other customers? Is the cloud?
Yeah, and it's interesting too. In Tiva, Dennis is an example of a customer that's 100% on Plex. It's interesting. A couple of our other customers where they've got a mixed environment of some on-prem solutions and then Plex, they had some of the most interesting stories. And I'll save the names to protect the innocent. But one customer where their European operations is on a different solution that's on-prem, and their US operations are 100% on Plex, and the US people were able to move to a work from home policy, not only do that easily, but leverage home computers very easily with the Plex security environment in place, even personal computers once granted access. Whereas their European operations had to rethink their VPN and rethink how they allow people to tunnel into networks and solutions. And it took them days and in some cases weeks. And so I think that for sure, not only just the general statement that because Plex provides a smart manufacturing holistic solution, that created an advantage, but just SaaS itself creates a competitive advantage when you need to change quickly. And we saw that across a lot of customers.
Yeah, we had a customer, Vinny, that just went through a merger, and one of the companies was heavily in cloud, and the other that merged was not, and there was some internal struggles on the move to cloud and political, trying to get that to happen, and I don't think that'll be an issue after this, getting the whole company on cloud.
Well, congratulations on that. So Jerry, you're always looking ahead to how the shop floor changes, right? You pioneered a lot of MES, IoT stuff, robotics. You got a lab. The queue of the industry. You got all the toys. How do you see manufacturing changing given this? Do you see more automation? Do you see workplace hygiene changing? Put on your future at talk about how what will be the new normal in manufacturing?
I think the new normal is going to be just a huge acceleration of the Industry 4.0 and the smart technologies that we're already starting and already gaining momentum. I think those are the things, and Bill's already mentioned and talked about them a little bit, those are the things that are really going to allow manufacturers to compete in the future and be prepared for this sort of thing happening again. We don't know if it's going to happen again. We don't know if the coronavirus is going to be, repeat in following years, but it's these sort of technologies, the connectivity, the sensors, the data, the real-time data, the digital twins. Those are the things that are going to give competitors leverage. And I also think that in previous economic downturns, it's during those times that innovation really starts to bubble up and starts to, people really have time to sit down and think about what we can do differently and better. And then when the economy starts to turn up again, those things are just kind of unleashed. Everyone's been brewing them for a while and they just get unleashed. And so we have these waves of innovation that happens after an economic downturn like this. Now, this is kind of an unprecedented downturn, but I expect some really cool things to happen when it comes to how we interact, how we get data from machines. I actually just got this. This is a brain scanner. So you talk about how you interact with devices, going from keyboards and mice to augmented reality, virtual reality. Now just thinking about it. So if you want to know more about this, you're going to want to come to PowerPlex. But I think there's some real innovation coming in how we connect and interact with devices, with machines, and how that data is relayed real time with the cloud as the basis for all that, as we've already mentioned.
Bill, I think you need to give Jerry a kick. He doesn't seem excited at all. You got to wake him up a little. So question for both of you. Jerry, you showed a V chart in China. I mean, that is like, I brightened up when I saw that. What do you see about the economy? Do you see a V, or do you see a U, a gradual, or do you see an L? In some sectors, they are seeing slow deaths. Where do you guys see the economy?
I think, Vinnie, it's obviously nobody knows, and so all we can offer is kind of an opinion. But my opinion is that it's going to be highly differentiated. And what I mean by that is certain industries are going to snap back very quickly because there truly is pent-up demand, and nothing changed really as it relates to the required demand. Whether that's food and beverage that didn't really see much of a change, or some segments of electronics where we've seen a small dip but not a big dip, and it'll probably bounce back quickly. And then other industries that may struggle for a longer period of time because there's either going to be depressed demand, or quite frankly, the capital structure of those markets in uncertain times puts a lot of stress on balance sheets, and therefore they're going to have a harder time recovering just because they're not going to have the financial wherewithal to do so. And obviously the extreme example of that, which is unrelated to the markets we serve, would be things related to travel and leisure that are going to really struggle. So I think it's going to be very differentiated. The one other thing that I might point to, and you referenced the data in China, which I think is very encouraging. It also shows that, there's not even just an L or a swoosh or a V, there can be a W, where there's a quick bounce back, and then dependencies on other geographies create a W effect. And so I think it's going to be highly differentiated and not uniform.
Probably a little bumpy then, yeah. Guys, I know Metro Detroit has been hit pretty hard. Are you guys doing okay? Plex employees doing okay?
No, thanks for asking, Vinnie. We are, and we've been very blessed that to this point, we haven't had any employees test positive for the virus. As I mentioned at the outset, we have a resilient culture and a SaaS solution, and one that's predisposed to knowing how to work from home. So we've been really, really fortunate to be able to operate, maybe not seamlessly, but pretty seamlessly throughout this. And we've maintained a posture of really wanting to protect our employees. We were one of the first employers, maybe because we can do so more easily than others, but we were one of the first in Detroit to say, hey, let's all work from home and provide you with all the tools necessary to do that productively.
And I would just expand that a little bit, Vinny. Just talk, you mentioned Detroit, and the Detroit area has been hit pretty hard, and it's kind of sad to see. But you know what? Just like Plex, Detroit is incredibly resilient. We know how to take a punch and get back up, and I expect this area to recover and to push forward in really cool new ways. But yeah, thanks for asking. We're doing fine.
Any final thoughts, either for your customers or for your peers in the industry?
Well, I think what we've tried to do is what I'm sure everybody's trying to do, which is, first and foremost, take care of your employees, make sure they're safe, healthy, and over communicate as much as you can during this time, both to your employees and to your customers. Secondly, companies that really shine and do everything they can to take care of their customers in a crisis come through stronger than they entered. And we're striving to do that every day, to do everything we can to help our customers, and really from educating them, supporting them, delivering capabilities, anything we can do to help them get through this. And then finally, we all have to get through this. And a part of getting through this is remaining financially strong. And so, we're, and I'm sure everyone is, doing everything we need to do to make sure that we are financially sound and continue to invest through this period so that we come through the other side stronger. And I know we will, and I know we'll come through hopefully sooner than later. And when we do, we'll do so in a manner that's strong and ready to innovate even faster for our customers.
Yeah, I would just add to that. Thanks, Bill. I would add to that, just from a technology perspective, cloud is where it's at. We've mentioned it a number of times during this talk, this interview, and I think especially from a software provider standpoint, you have a responsibility to lay a groundwork and an architecture for your customers to succeed in the future. And I don't see that happening outside of cloud and SaaS. And that's the platform on which the other technologies are built that will give you leverage to succeed through these upturns and downturns in the future.
Jerry, Bill, thank you for your time. Stay safe, and let's hope for the we. Let's get the. Yeah. We can at least hope. We can. I'm glad the president is pointing to that. So let's see if it happens. Thank you very much.